The gun pressed cold against Adanna's temple. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The masked man's hand trembled, whether from fear or adrenaline she didn't know. All she knew was that one wrong move, one sudden sound, and everything would end right here in this pristine soul penthouse that had never quite felt like home. "Where is it?" the intruder hissed in broken English. "The safe. Tell me now." Adanna's lips moved, but no sound came out. Her mind raced. What safe? Minjun never told her about a safe. Why would he? She was just the contract wife, the arrangement, the solution to his image problem and her family's debt. The gun pressed harder. Then she heard it. The elevator. The private penthouse elevator that only one person had access to. The intruder heard it too. His grip tightened. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." But the elevator doors opened and Minjun stepped out. Phone pressed to his ear, tie loosened, looking exhausted from another late meeting. He looked up, saw her, saw the gun, saw the intruder. Everything happened so fast. The phone clattered to the marble floor. Minjun moved like she'd never seen him move before, fast and desperate and completely unlike the cold, controlled man she'd married 3 months ago. Security burst in behind him. The intruder panicked, shoved her, ran. Minjun caught her before she hit the ground. And then it was chaos. Security chasing the intruder. Police sirens. Director Huang barking orders into his phone. People everywhere, asking questions, taking statements, securing the penthouse. Through it all, Minjun held her. Just held her. His hands shaking worse than hers. "Everyone out." His voice cut through the noise like a blade. "Sir, the police need out. Now." Minjun's tone left no room for argument. "Leave us." Director Huang hesitated, then nodded. Within minutes, the penthouse emptied. The door closed. Silence fell like a curtain. Adanna sat on the white leather couch, wrapped in a blanket someone had draped over her shoulders, still shaking. Minjun paced. Back and forth, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair, destroying it. His jacket was somewhere on the floor. His tie hung loose. She'd never seen him like this. Undone, unraveled, vulnerable. "Say something," he said suddenly, stopping mid-pace to stare at her. She blinked. "What do you want me to say?" "Anything. Yell at me. Blame me. Tell me this is my fault because it is. My enemies, my business, my..." His voice cracked. He turned away. "Minjun, do you know what I thought when Huang called me?" He wasn't looking at her. His shoulders were rigid, trembling. "When he said there was an intruder and you were..." He couldn't finish. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. Adanna stood slowly, the blanket falling away. "What did you think?" Long silence. Outside, Seoul glittered, oblivious to the chaos inside this glass tower. "I thought..." Minjun's voice came out, rough, broken. "I thought this is what I deserve. This is what happens when you let someone in. When you start to..." He stopped. Her heart hammered. "When you start to what?" He turned and his eyes were wet. Kang Minjun, the ice-cold billionaire who never showed emotion, had tears streaming down his face. "When you start to care about someone more than you've ever cared about anything in your life." Adanna forgot how to breathe. "I was in a meeting," he continued, words tumbling out like he couldn't stop them. "A $1 billion deal. Chairman Park was talking, and all I could think was, Adanna would hate this guy. She'd smile politely, but later she'd mimic his laugh, and I'd pretend not to find it adorable. And then Huang called and..." He stopped, composure crumbling like sand. "I left. In the middle of negotiations. I ran out of that boardroom like it meant nothing because it did mean nothing. Not compared to..." His voice shattered completely. "Minjun, what are you saying?" He stepped closer, desperate, falling apart right in front of her. "I'm saying I haven't slept well in 3 months because you're down the hall and I can't. I'm saying every morning I wake up, and the first thing I think about is whether you slept well, if you're happy, if you regret. He couldn't continue, couldn't speak, just stood there, this powerful man who controlled empires, completely destroyed. I'm saying, he whispered, when Huang told me someone had a gun to your head, I felt my entire world stop, and I realized that nothing I've built, nothing I own, nothing matters if something happens to you. Tears streamed down Adanna's face now. Why didn't you tell me? Because I'm a coward. He laughed, bitter and broken. Because I've spent my whole life building walls and you just walked through them like they were paper. And that terrified me. I don't understand. You've barely spoken to me in weeks. You avoid me, I thought. I avoid you because every time I see you, I want to tell you. Every time you laugh at something on your phone, every time you mangle Korean pronunciation, every time you exist in my space, I want to... He stepped closer, hesitant, like he was afraid she'd disappear. Do you know how many times I've stood outside your bedroom door? Just standing there like a creep, trying to work up the courage to knock. To tell you that this arrangement, this contract, this marriage, it stopped being fake for me 2 months ago. Adanna's breath caught. 2 months? He nodded, a small, sad smile on his lips. Remember when you had that cold? When you made pepper soup at 2 a.m. and I helped you? She nodded. You fell asleep on the couch after. And I sat there watching you sleep. Which sounds creepy, I know. But you looked so peaceful. And you smiled in your sleep. And I thought, I want to see that smile every day for the rest of my life. He laughed, the sound hollow and painful. That's when I knew I was completely, hopelessly in love with you, and I've been drowning in it every day since. Adanna couldn't speak, couldn't move. 3 months of confusion, of loneliness, of thinking she was nothing more than a transaction, and he was saying this. Now, after she'd almost died. Why are you telling me this now? Because tonight, when I thought I might lose you, I realized that dying without telling you would be the biggest regret of my life, bigger than any business failure, bigger than anything. He reached out with shaking hands and cupped her face. Adanna, I know I have no right. I know this wasn't the deal. I know you probably don't feel the same way. But I need you to know. His voice cracked again. I love you. I'm in love with you. The kind of love I thought only existed in movies. The kind that makes me stupid and reckless and willing to abandon billion-1 deals because nothing is more important than you. She stared at him, speechless. 3 months of believing he was indifferent, that she was just fulfilling a role, that the rumors about him were true, and he could never want her. Say something, he begged. Please. Even if it's, you're crazy, or this is inappropriate, or... Adanna grabbed his face and kissed him. Hard. Desperate. 3 months of longing poured into one kiss. Minjun froze for half a second, shocked, then responded with equal desperation, his arms wrapping around her like he was afraid she'd vanish. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he stared at her like he couldn't believe she was real. What? Shut up, she whispered. Just shut up. She kissed him again, softer this time, tender and full of everything she'd been afraid to feel. When they pulled back, she was crying and laughing at the same time. You're such an idiot. I know. 3 months? You've been in love with me for 3 months and didn't say anything? I was scared. Of what? He looked at her with such raw vulnerability it made her heart ache. That you'd laugh. That you'd feel sorry for me. That you'd look at me the way you're looking at me now and I'd realize it was pity. Not. It's not pity. His breath caught. Then what is it? She took his hands, held them tight. It's relief. It's joy. It's... God, Minjun, it's love. I love you too. For a moment, he just stared at her like he couldn't process the words. Then his eyes filled with fresh tears. Say that again. She smiled through her own tears. I love you. I've been falling for you since you made my terrible pepper soup and pretended it was good. Since you learned to say good morning in Igbo. Since you started leaving post-it notes on the fridge with badly drawn smiley faces. Those were not badly drawn. They were terrible, but they were mine. You were mine. Even when I thought you weren't. Even when I thought this was just a contract, my heart knew. He pulled her into his arms, held her like she might disappear if he let go. I'm never letting you go, contract or no contract, 2 years or 20. I'm never letting you go. Promise? He pulled back to look at her, his forehead resting against hers. I promise. On everything I own, everything I am, I promise. They kissed again, tender and full of promise and hope. When they finally broke apart, he led her to the couch, and they curled up together, her head on his chest, his arms wrapped around her. Stay with me tonight, he whispered into her hair. I don't mean, just stay. I need to know you're safe, that you're here. Okay. They fell asleep like that, tangled together, finally home. When Adanna woke, sunlight was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting Seoul in gold. For a moment she thought she'd dreamed it. The break-in, the confession, the kiss. But then she felt Minjun's arms around her, felt his breath against her neck, and knew it was real. He stirred, and immediately his arms tightened. You're here. Where else would I be? I thought maybe I dreamed it, that you said, I love you. You didn't dream it. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. But before this, before the confession and the kiss and the realization that they'd both been falling in love while pretending not to, there was something else. Something that needed to be said. Now you're probably sitting there thinking, wait, what? They're in love? They're married? What did I just walk into? Let me back up. Because Adanna and Minjun's story didn't start with a confession and a kiss. It started with a contract, a debt, and 2 people who thought they knew exactly what they were getting into. Spoiler alert, they had no idea. So let me take you back. 3 months earlier, to the day a girl from Abuja, Nigeria found out she was about to become a billionaire's wife. 3 months ago, Adanna's world was completely different. She was finishing her senior thesis at the university, presenting her research on linguistic bridging in international diplomacy. Her professor had smiled at her, pride evident in his eyes. With your talent, Adanna, the UN, EU, anywhere you want to go is possible. She'd beamed. I want to be the voice that helps people understand each other, bridge worlds. The irony of that dream would become clear soon enough. That night, her family gathered for dinner. Mama's jollof rice, Papa's booming laugh, her 3 younger brothers arguing over football. It was perfect. Normal. Home. Then the phone rang. Papa's face changed the moment he answered. The laughter died. He excused himself, disappeared into his study. Adanna heard raised voices. Mama's smile faded. Her brothers fell silent, confused. Over the next 2 weeks, Adanna watched her father age 10 years, watched her mother pray constantly, fingers working rosary beads until they wore grooves in her palms. Creditors called at all hours, threatening voices, threatening everything. She pieced it together slowly. Papa's business partner had embezzled everything and fled the country. The debts were crushing. The family was drowning. Then Papa called her to his study. He couldn't look at her. His hands shook as he poured himself whiskey he didn't drink. There's a way, he said finally, voice hollow. A Korean Chinese businessman. Very wealthy. Very private. He needs a wife. Adanna didn't understand at first. What does that have to do with, he'll clear all our debts, Pay for your brother's school. Give us a fresh start, in exchange for 2 years of marriage. The room tilted. You're selling me. I'm saving this family. By selling your daughter? Her voice rose, sharp and cutting. You're selling me like property? Adanna, please. Why me? Why not sell the house, the cars? Why me? Papa finally looked at her, and the devastation in his eyes almost broke her. Because there's nothing left to sell. Because your brothers are 12, 14, and 16. Because your mother's health can't take this stress. Because you're the strongest of all of us, and I'm a coward who's asking you to be even stronger. She wanted to scream, to run, to tell him no, absolutely not, find another way. But when she went to her room, she found Mama sitting on her bed, waiting. You don't have to do this, Mama said quietly. Then what happens? We survive? Somehow. With the boys dropping out of school? With you losing your home? With Papa losing everything he worked for? Mama said nothing. I had dreams, Adanna whispered. I was going to change the world. Mama pulled her close, began braiding her hair like she had when Adanna was small. Tell me about love, Mama. Is it real? The kind in your romance novels? Sometimes, for the lucky ones. And for the unlucky ones? Mama's smile was sad. They find other things to live for. Adanna closed her eyes. I'll find other things then. 2 weeks later, she landed in Seoul in January, cold she'd never experienced. Director Hwang met her at the airport, polite, professional, distant. Min Jun hadn't come. Too busy with wedding preparations, Hwang explained. The wedding. Tomorrow. 300 guests. She didn't know 300 people. They were his associates, his world. She just needed to smile. That night, alone in the massive penthouse that looked like a museum, Adanna broke down and cried. The wedding day arrived too fast. A team of stylists transformed her into someone she didn't recognize. The custom hanbok-style gown was stunning, white and gold, more expensive than anything she'd ever worn. Her hair swept up, makeup flawless. She looked like a princess. She felt like a doll. In the mirror, she barely knew herself. This is the girl who dreamed of changing the world, she thought. Look at her now. Bought. Sold. Beautiful and empty. The venue was a 5-star hotel, the ballroom dripping in flowers and crystal. Ice sculptures, champagne towers, an orchestra. Guests in designer everything. Photographers everywhere. Adanna had never felt more alone. She walked down the aisle by herself. Papa couldn't afford the trip. She'd told him not to come, couldn't bear for him to see this. Every step felt like a funeral march. Guests whispered. She caught words. Nigerian, contract, arrangement. Then she saw Min Jun. He stood at the altar in a perfect black tuxedo, devastatingly handsome, completely expressionless. Their eyes met. For a split second, something flickered in his gaze. Surprise? Appreciation? Then it was gone, replaced by cold professionalism. The ceremony was in Korean. She understood maybe 30%. The vows were traditional, impersonal. Min Jun's voice was steady, emotionless. Hers shook. I do. I do. The rings were real, expensive, beautiful. They felt like shackles. You may kiss the bride. Min Jun hesitated. The guests waited. He leaned in, gave her a brief, chaste kiss, barely their lips touching. Cameras flashed. Applause erupted. Her first kiss with her husband, and she felt nothing but emptiness. The reception was worse. Min Jun was pulled away immediately by businessmen, politicians, society matrons. Adanna sat at the head table alone, plate after plate of food she didn't recognize in front of her. People approached, spoke Korean too fast, smiled politely, left. She smiled until her face hurt. An older woman approached, Min Jun's mother. She studied Adanna with cold eyes, said something in rapid Korean, walked away. Later, Hwang translated. She said you're prettier than expected. She hopes you know your place. Adanna excused herself to the bathroom and cried silently in a stall. The first dance came. Minjun offered his hand for show. They danced. He was perfect. She followed his lead. They didn't speak. Then, barely audible, he said, "You look beautiful." She looked up, shocked. But he was looking past her, face neutral. Had she imagined it? The dance ended. He released her. They returned to opposite sides of the room. At 11, it was finally over. Her feet bled in designer heels. Her makeup was smeared from secret crying. Minjun approached. "The car is waiting." "Okay. You did well today." She laughed bitterly. "Thanks. I'm great at playing dress-up." His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Back at the penthouse, the elevator ride was suffocating silence. "Your room is the east wing. Mine is west. You won't be disturbed." "Of course. Wouldn't want to disturb you?" "Adanna." "It's fine. This is the arrangement. I understand." She walked to her wing, didn't look back, closed the door and slid down it, sobbing in her wedding dress. "This is my life now," she thought. Mrs. Kang. Beautiful cage. Bought bride. The first month was a special kind of loneliness. Adanna woke up alone every morning in a bed too big for one person. She saw Minjun maybe once a week, always for scheduled public appearances where they played the perfect couple for cameras, then returned to silence. She learned Korean obsessively, drowning herself in apps and TV shows and online classes. She explored the neighborhood alone, ate alone, slept alone, existed in this beautiful, empty life. One night she looked at their wedding photos on her phone. They looked perfect, like a magazine spread. She touched the photo of Minjun's face and whispered to the empty room. "Mama asked me if love was real. I told her I'd find other things to live for. But I didn't know it would hurt this much." Then everything changed. Month 2, Adanna got sick. A terrible Korean winter flu that left her feverish and miserable. At 2 in the morning, delirious and homesick, she stumbled to the kitchen trying to make pepper soup. Her hands shook as she chopped ginger. Tears streamed down her face. She couldn't remember if she'd added enough spices. Everything was wrong. "What are you doing?" She spun around, nearly dropping the knife. Minjun stood in the doorway, tie loosened, looking exhausted from another late meeting. He stared at her like she was a ghost. "Pepper soup," she said, her voice cracking. "Mama makes it when we're sick. I can't remember if I added the ginger." She swayed. He crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and caught her. "You're burning up. You should be in bed." "I'm fine." "You're not fine. Come on." He tried to lead her away, but she resisted, stubborn even in fever. "The soup." He sighed. "I'll make your soup. Go lie down." "You don't know how." "Then you'll tell me." 20 minutes later, she was on the couch wrapped in blankets, directing him through pepper soup while he asked questions about every single ingredient. When she said more pepper, he asked how much. She said, "Until it looks angry." He smiled, just slightly, and said, "Angry. Got it." While he cooked, they talked. Really talked for the first time since the wedding. "Why pepper soup?" he asked, stirring the pot. "It's what home tastes like. What love tastes like." He was quiet for a moment. "Tell me about home." So she did. She told him about Nigeria, about her family, about her dreams of being a translator at the UN. He listened, really listened, asking questions, remembering details. When the soup was ready, he brought it to her and sat while she ate. "It's good," she said, surprised. "Really good. Don't sound so shocked." "Thank you. You didn't have to." "I know." She fell asleep on the couch while he was still there. When she woke hours later, she was covered with an extra blanket. Medicine and water sat on the table beside her with a note in neat handwriting. "Take these, rest, don't make soup at 2 a.m. MJ. She smiled, touched the note, and felt something shift in her chest. After that night, things changed slowly. Minjun started coming home for dinner twice a week. They ate in silence at first, but then she asked, "How was your day?" He looked surprised, she'd asked. "Exhausting. Yours?" She answered honestly. "Lonely." He looked at her with something like guilt and said, "I'm sorry." She asked, "Are you?" And he said, "Yes." It was the first honest moment between them. Then the note started. Post-its on the fridge. "Ate your leftovers, will replace." "MJ," she wrote back, "you owe me jollof rice. A." The next day, Nigerian takeout appeared on the counter with a note. "Debt paid?" It became their thing. Small notes, silly messages, a private language building between them. Week 3 brought a charity gala. Adanna wore a stunning gown and caught Minjun staring at her multiple times. An older businessman made a subtle, racist comment. "Quite exotic, your wife. Where did you find her?" Minjun's voice went ice cold. "I didn't find her. I was lucky enough that she chose me, and her name is Adanna. Use it." He walked away with her, his hand protective on her lower back. In the car after, she said, "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did." "Why?" He looked at her with sudden intensity. "Because you're my wife, and no one disrespects you." Her heart did something dangerous. Week 4, late at night, neither of them could sleep. They ran into each other in the kitchen. He made tea. They sat at the kitchen island and talked for hours. He told her about growing up between cultures, Korean mother and Chinese father, never quite fitting anywhere, building his empire to prove he belonged. "Do you?" she asked. "Belong?" He looked at her for a long moment. "I'm starting to think I've been looking in the wrong places." The air between them felt charged, electric. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but he stood quickly. "I should let you sleep." He left before she could respond. She sat there alone, confused and hopeful and terrified all at once. Month 3 arrived. One night she found him on the balcony with whiskey, soul glittering below. She joined him. "You're up late." "Couldn't quiet my mind." "What's so loud in there?" He smiled slightly. "Dangerous thoughts." "Dangerous how?" He looked at her. Really looked. "The kind that make you want things you can't have." Her breath caught. "Who says you can't have them?" "Our contract. The terms. 2 years and—" "What if I don't want to wait 2 years?" Silence stretched between them. He turned to face her fully. "Adanna, what are you saying?" She felt brave, reckless. "I'm saying that somewhere between the soup and the notes, and the way you defended me, I stopped pretending this was just a contract." His eyes darkened. "You don't know what you're saying." "I know exactly." He stood abruptly. "You should go to bed." She stood too, hurt flooding through her. "Why do you do that? Why do you run every time we get close to something real? Because real is dangerous." "For who?" "For both of us." He walked inside, leaving her on the balcony alone. "Too late," she whispered to the empty air. "It's already real." The next week, Minjun avoided her completely. Back to separate lives, ships passing in the night. Adanna felt foolish. She'd misread everything. The soup, the notes, the looks. Of course she had. Everyone said he was gay. Everyone said he'd never want her. She'd been stupid to hope. Then she overheard Director Huang on the phone. No complications. The arrangement is working perfectly. She fulfills her duties, he fulfills his. Purely professional." Her heart shattered. Of course. What was she thinking? That he actually cared? That she was anything more than a solution to his problem? That night, she started packing. Not everything. Just enough. She'd call Papa, ask if she could come home. Maybe they could renegotiate. End this early. She couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't love someone who saw her as a transaction. Tears streamed down her face as she folded clothes, her hands shaking. That's when the break-in happened. The sound of shattering glass, heavy footsteps, a masked figure in her doorway. She screamed. He grabbed her, dragged her to the living room, pressed the gun to her head. And then Minjun arrived, and everything she thought she knew shattered along with that glass. Now, the morning after, they sat in the kitchen. Minjun made coffee while Adanna watched him, still processing everything. The confession, the kiss, the revelation that he'd been falling apart while she'd been falling in love. "Can I ask you something?" she said finally. "Anything. The rumors about you being gay." He stilled, then set down the coffee pot carefully. "You want to know if they're true? I want to know why you never corrected them." He sat across from her and for a moment just looked at her. Then he started talking. "In my world, Korean business culture, especially at my level, there are expectations. Marriage, children, legacy. When I was younger, I dated women. I was private about it, didn't flaunt relationships, didn't bring dates to events. So people assumed. And you let them. At first I was furious. I denied it. But then I realized the assumption gave me something valuable. Distance, protection. Women stopped pursuing me for my money. Business rivals stopped using romantic entanglements as leverage. My mother stopped parading potential brides through my office every week. It was lonely, but it was safe. Until they insisted on marriage." He nodded. "Until being unmarried at 35 became a liability. Until they said find a wife or we'll find one for you. So I found a solution. A woman who needed what I could provide. Someone who wouldn't expect anything. Someone I wouldn't fall in love with." He looked at her with such intensity she felt it in her bones. "I'm not gay, Adanna. I've never been. I'm attracted to women. To you, specifically. Painfully. Constantly. But I let people think it because it was easier than admitting the truth." "What truth?" "That I was afraid. That I didn't trust myself to love someone without becoming my father." She leaned forward. "What happened to your father?" Pain flashed across his face. "He loved my mother desperately, completely. The kind of love that consumes you. When she left him, when she decided Korean society was more important than their marriage, when she chose her family's approval over their love, it destroyed him. He died 5 years later. Everyone said heart attack, but I knew. He died of heartbreak." His voice cracked. "I swore I'd never let anyone have that power over me. That I'd never love someone so much that losing them would kill me. And then you walked into my life and shattered every wall I'd built. Last night, when I thought I might lose you, I realized I'd already become my father. That losing you would destroy me." She reached across the table, took his hands. "Look at me." He met her eyes. "I'm not your mother. I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going anywhere. You don't know that. 2 years? Forget the 2 years. Forget the contract. I choose you, Minjun. Not because I have to. Because I love you." "How can you be sure?" "Because I've been sure since the pepper soup. Since you defended me at that gala. Since you started leaving me notes like a teenage boy with a crush. I've been falling in love with you for months. Terrified you'd never feel the same because everyone said you couldn't. Everyone said you wouldn't." She laughed through tears. "And all this time you were falling too." He pulled her into his arms, held her close. "I was drowning in it." "Then let's drown together." The next few weeks were like a dream. They woke up in the same bed, innocent but together. Minjun brought her coffee every morning. "Good morning, wife." She'd smile. "Good morning, husband." At business dinners, he held her hand under the table, kissed her cheek unprompted. A business partner commented, "Mr. Kang, you seem different." Minjun looked at Adanna and said simply, "I'm happy." "That's different." She taught him to dance to Afro beats in the living room. He was terrible. They laughed until they cried. "You have no rhythm," she said. He pulled her close. "Then lead me." They slow danced instead, swaying together in their living room, and it was perfect. They had their first real argument when he worked late without texting. She was terrified after the break-in, and when he came home at midnight, she was furious. "You couldn't text. I thought something happened. I was in meetings." "I don't care. I was terrified and you just disappeared for 12 hours? He realized immediately. "You're right. I'm sorry. I can't do this if you shut me out." He pulled out his phone, added her to emergency contacts, made her his #1 favorite. "See? You're at the top. Above everyone. You'll always know where I am." She softened. "Okay, but you're still in trouble." He smiled slightly. "What's my punishment?" "You're making me jollof rice. From scratch. Tonight." They cooked together, and it was domestic and perfect and everything she'd never dared to hope for. One evening, they video called her family. Minjun was terrified. Papa was formal at first. "Mr. Kang. Sir, I want to apologize for the way this started. For the contract. For making Adanna feel like a transaction when she's..." He looked at her. "When she's everything." Papa softened. "Are you treating her well?" "I'm trying to be worthy of her. Every day." Her brothers bombarded him with questions about Korean gaming and football. He relaxed, charmed them. At the end, Mama asked to speak to him alone. Adanna left, nervous. "Do you love my daughter?" Mama asked. "More than I knew it was possible to love anyone. Will you hurt her?" "I'll spend my life trying not to, and if I do, I'll spend it making it right." Mama smiled. "Then you have my blessing." But not everything was perfect. A business rival emerged, Chairman Park, bitter about the deal Minjun had abandoned. He threatened to expose the marriage's transactional origins to the press unless Minjun signed over his pharmaceutical division. That evening, Minjun was stressed, distant. Adanna noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" He explained everything. She felt fear grip her chest. "What do we do?" "I could give him the division, or we tell the truth ourselves. On our terms." "You mean tell everyone it started as a contract?" "Yes." "Won't that hurt you? Your reputation?" He took her hands. "Not as much as hiding it. Not as much as letting him control our story. But I need to know, are you with me? Because this will be public. Messy. People will judge. What will you say?" "The truth. That I married you for convenience, and it became the best decision of my life. That I fell in love with my contract wife, and I'm not ashamed of any of it." She was crying again. "Then I'm with you." The next day, they held a press conference. The room was packed with journalists, cameras flashing, the air thick with anticipation. Minjun and Adanna stood at the podium, hands clasped tight. Minjun spoke first, his voice steady and clear. 3 months ago, I entered into a marriage contract with Adanna Okafor. It was a business arrangement. Her family needed financial help. I needed to end persistent rumors affecting my company. We married for practical reasons. The room erupted. Questions shouted from every direction. Cameras flashed like lightning. Minjun raised his hand for silence. But something happened that neither of us planned for. He looked at Adanna, and his expression softened completely. We fell in love. What started as a transaction became the most real thing in my life. Adanna didn't marry me for love. She married me for survival. But she chose to love me anyway. And I'm standing here today to tell you that I'm the luckiest man alive because of it. Adanna stepped forward, her voice shaking but strong. I won't lie and say this is a fairy tale. It's not. I was sold into this marriage. I resented it. I resented him. She took a breath. But Minjun showed me what love actually looks like. Not the romantic kind in movies, but the kind that grows from respect, from seeing someone fully and choosing them anyway, from pepper soup at 2 a.m. and post-it notes and defending me when I couldn't defend myself. She looked at Minjun. I chose him. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. Because he's mine and I'm his. And that's worth more than any contract. The initial shock gave way to something unexpected. Support. Social media exploded with people praising their honesty. Chairman Park's plan backfired spectacularly. He looked like the villain he was. The public loved them more for telling the truth. 3 months later, Minjun planned something special for the company's annual gala. Adanna didn't know. She wore a stunning red gown, bold and confident, so different from the white wedding dress. She was glowing, happy, fully herself. "You're looking at me weird," she said. "I'm looking at you like I always do." "Like you want to devour me?" He grinned. "Exactly like that." At the gala, 500 guests filled the ballroom. Director Huang approached. "Mrs. Kang, Mr. Kang requests you join him on stage." "Why?" Huang smiled, rare and genuine. "You'll see." On stage, Minjun took her hand. "Thank you all for coming. Most of you know by now that my wife and I had an unconventional beginning. We started as a contract. We married for practical reasons. We weren't supposed to fall in love." He turned to Adanna. "But you ruined all my plans. You took my perfectly organized, emotionless life and turned it into chaos. Beautiful, terrifying, wonderful chaos. You taught me that love isn't a weakness, it's a strength. That being vulnerable doesn't make you breakable, it makes you brave." He got down on one knee. The crowd gasped. Adanna's eyes filled with tears. "What are you doing?" He pulled out a new ring. "Adanna, we're already married. Legally, you're stuck with me." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "But I never asked you properly. I never gave you a choice. So I'm asking now, in front of everyone, with no contracts and no obligations." His voice broke with emotion. "Adanna Okafor, the woman who saved me from myself, who loved me when I was unlovable, who chose me when she didn't have to. Will you marry me? Again? For real this time? Not because of debt or duty, but because you want to spend your life with me the way I want to spend mine with you?" She was sobbing. "You're insane. Is that a yes?" "It's a yes, you ridiculous, dramatic, perfect man. Yes." He slid the ring on, stood, kissed her as the crowd erupted in applause. The orchestra began playing. They danced, lost in each other, and it was nothing like their cold, performative wedding dance. This was full of love and laughter and tears and joy. "When did you plan this?" she asked. "The day we told the truth at the press conference. I realized I wanted to give you everything I didn't the first time. Romance, choice, a real beginning. I don't need grand gestures. I know, but I needed to give them. I needed the world to know that you're not my contract wife. You're the love of my life. I love you so much. I know. You tell me every day, and you still can't believe it." He smiled, honest and vulnerable. "Sometimes I wake up and think I dreamed you. Then I'll keep telling you until you believe it. That might take 50 years. Good thing we have them." They kissed as the camera spun around them, and it was perfect. That night, on the penthouse balcony, the same spot where he'd once kept his distance, he held her close, her back against his chest, soul glittering below. "I got accepted," she said quietly. To the translation program at the UN. He spun her around, excited. Adanna, that's incredible. When do you start? 6 months, in New York. Then we're moving to New York. What? No, you have the company. I have you. The company can be managed remotely. You're not giving up your dreams for me. But what about your dreams? He cupped her face. You are my dream. Everything else is just work. She kissed him. New York then. Together. Always together. She smiled. Min-jun? Thank you. For what? For buying me. If Papa hadn't sold me, if you hadn't needed a contract wife, if none of that had happened, I never would have found you. He laughed, emotional. I think I got the better deal. We both did. They kissed, tender and perfect, wrapped in each other. Finally home. Some love stories start with a glance across a crowded room. Some start with chance meetings and destiny. Adanna and Min-jun's love story started with a contract, a debt, and 2 people who thought they knew exactly what they were getting into. They were wrong. What they got was messy and complicated and absolutely nothing like they planned. And it was perfect. Because the best love stories aren't the ones that start easy. They're the ones where you choose each other every single day. Where you fall in love with someone you were never supposed to love. Where a contract becomes a promise. Where I do, said out of obligation, becomes I do, said with your whole heart. If you loved Adanna and Min-jun's story, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment telling me what your favorite moment was. Was it the pepper soup scene? The confession? The proposal? I want to know. Subscribe and turn on notifications because I have more Afro-Korean love stories coming that will make your heart race. Share this with someone who loves a good romance. Trust me, they'll thank you. And if you want to see what happens when Adanna and Min-jun move to New York, comment Part 2 below. If enough of you ask, I'll tell you their next chapter. Thanks for watching, and remember, the best love is the one you choose.